All rise. Yes, yes. You all see the title. I see the title. It looks like Game Theory has released a video. Well, they had, and I didn't get the chance to do a reaction video on it on time. But we're here now. And it looks like we are wrong. Yes, wrong. Seems that FNAF, the whole mystery relies on phone guys. So, you know what we have to do. We gotta see how Tom is going to explain this on today's episode on FNAF. So, sit back, relax, and prepare for the worst, I suppose, because we're going to be here for a while.
About FNAF 1. Since its release, we've all been wrong about FNAF 1.
How?
Since its release, its place in the timeline has remained an unconfirmed mystery. But now we have the week before.
Oh, yes, we have that.
The week before the very first game. Will it solve this 10-year-old mystery? Or is it going to leave the timeline even more broken? Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that reads the FNAF book so you don't have to. But seriously, why are there 25 of these things? But regardless of how I feel about the mere existence of the...
What's also bad is that I'm pretty sure there's going to be a collector's edition of the Tales from the Pizzaplex. And I swear to all that is Scott Coffin, if there is a bonus book in there, and the only way for me to get that bonus book is to buy the collector's box, I am going to be angry. Because god dang, I have 2 sets of the same books.
Things. Scott is still pumping them out, and now we've got a new series of interactive novels starting officially with The Week Before. For those of you who don't know, The Week Before is FNAF's legally distinct version of a choose-your-own-adventure book. They can't legally call it that because it's trademarked. Don't worry about it. In this book, we take on the role of Ralph, a Freddy's security guard working the night shift the week before FNAF 1. The same security guard that we hear during each night of FNAF 1.
Hello. I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night.
That's right. Ralph is Phone Guy.
Yep.
To finally put a name to a voice. From here, you get to choose how the story plays out. Some paths will take you through the pizzeria that we know so well at this point. Others will offer you new storylines, and others will land you exactly where Phone Guy ends up during the Nightfall call of FNAF 1.
Dead.
Oh, no.
I simply look away.
As you might have guessed, this book has caused quite a stir in the FNAF community. Firstly because, well, it's actually a pretty good book. The interactive element really gamifies the whole reading experience and builds the anticipation of where it's going. But the real reason it's become such a hot button topic is...
And yes, I know. I haven't done a... I know people are going to say in the comments, Juan, you kind of stopped doing the whole, Tales from the Pizzaplex VIP, and you haven't even done the week before. So what happened? Yeah, that's kind of my fault on that one. But not to worry. We will continue off the VIP read through as well as the week before. But you just got to give me time. You just give me time. It's gonna happen. Okay, don't worry.
Because it provides us with answers to some of our most burning questions about this franchise. Not just who Phone Guy is, but who did the bite of 87, with the employees' new tactics of flashing their lights to stop the animatronic, and Phone Guy's insistence that the animatronic never bit a kid, with the emphasis on kid. All signs point towards it being Foxy. How many spirits are inside of Golden Freddy? Well, according to the Sixth Night, Ralph is overwhelmed by a noise of "it's me" when he's touched by Golden Freddy. But underneath that noise is a different voice speaking in full sentences. Two voices, two spirits.
Yes.
Who those spirits are and how it works are theories for another day. But it's been so exciting.
Oh, we're getting more theories on the line.
We're getting some answers to questions we've had since that very first game. However, the biggest question that I and many other theorists wanted answered was, what year does FNAF 1 take place? This book is literally set the week before FNAF 1, so if anything was going to give us the answer, it would be this. Or so we thought. In true FNAF fashion,
Dang.
While offering answers to some questions, this book is cryptic about others. But as I went back through the book and the evidence surrounding FNAF 1's date, I noticed something. We've been looking at this entirely wrong. There's a detail
Really?
that's been hanging over us for a whole decade. A detail that changes not just when in the timeline FNAF 1's pizzeria existed, but the entire timeline as we know it. Grab
No.
your camera viewing tablets, friends, because we gotta go back to the original Freddy's for one more night to figure out when FNAF 1 really takes place.
Dang, this is gonna... Let me guess. And this is gonna also butcher MatPat's ultimate timeline. I know it. Hello?
Hello. I wanted to record a message for you to get settled into your first night.
Yeah.
Welcome to Lumen X FNAF 2024.
Oh, come on.
In style, come alive.
Oh, no. Who's that?
Rest, it's covered in ketchup. Anyway, I'm sure you've already taken a look at the cameras, but just some extra information for you.
1993 has basically been...
X FNAF
Alright, we back. When does FNAF take place?
1993 has basically been the de facto date for FNAF 1 ever since Matt's very first FNAF episode. He
Yes.
used the amount of money earned in the week and compared it with the minimum wages throughout the years, which landed him somewhere in the early 90s. Combine that with the fact that most weekly employees are paid on Fridays, with
Yeah.
the date we get paid in FNAF 1 being November 12th, and you find the only year that fits is 1993. We almost got confirmation of this date too, thanks to some leaked Faz facts from FNAF AR, saying things like Fazbear's twisted pizza recipe was voted most yummy by 6 out of 10 children in every survey from 1988 to 1993. But we
Okay.
were later told by Illumix, the company that made the game, not to use this cut content for lore purposes. These might
Dang.
have been cut because Scott just likes to be cryptic, or it could be because the date was wrong. Either way, it did sow the seeds of doubt within the community about the legitimacy of 1993 as our FNAF 1 year. Since
Yeah.
then, a couple of other dates have been thrown around, but despite all of the theorizing, we've never had something that felt truly solid, which was where we all hoped the week before would come in and save the day. And at first, it
Please
seemed
save
like it was
us.
doing just that. Throughout the book, Ralph not only records the phone calls that we get to hear during the first game, but he also listens to his old recordings that, according to him, are from very long ago. Quote, "It's strange to listen to a recording of yourself, especially one from so long ago. If you remember correctly, your daughter had just been born." I know, it is strange listening to a recording of yourself. Welcome to my life, mate. At the very start of the story, we learned
Trust
that
me, I
Ralph's
get it.
daughter, Capalia, is 11.
Trust me when I get this. Okay, first of all, yeah, it's crazy. Phone Guy has a daughter, so there is a possibility that we could be able to be playing as. It could be a possibility that we could someday play as Phone Guy's daughter, Calipia. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if Calipia may be the main character for, Secrets of the Mimic. I don't know why I'm throwing that out, but it's a possibility. You never know with FNAF, to be honest. It could happen. But, yeah, trust me, I understand. I tried going back to watching my old videos, and oh my goodness, my voice, man. What happened? I'm sorry, I had to put a tangent in there.
Years old. And so, if this recording was made around when she was born, and that initial recording says it's from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Fredbear's Family Diner, then the earliest this game could take place is 11 years after Freddy's opened in 1983, making the year 1994. Now, there's always a chance that he recorded the calls a year or so before the opening, or he simply rounded up the year. The phrase "just been born" could mean sometime between Capelia literally being born and being 12 to 24 months old, which
Yeah.
would allow for 1993 to still fit the bill here. That is, if it wasn't for something YouTuber The Unwithered Truth pointed out.
Really?
They also did a whole video trying to figure out the year of FNAF 1, but they found an interesting detail. The page where we're told Ralph recorded these Phone Guy messages around when his daughter was born has two major faults. The first is that to get to this page, it requires some really odd pathway choices. By getting through to the 6th night on your first playthrough, you unlock a mobile phone, which the book calls the bonus item. You then
Okay.
need to restart the book, book with the bonus item in your inventory. At various points, the book offers you a chance to use the bonus item, and you're encouraged to do so whenever this option is presented, because that leads to the canon FNAF 1 phone calls being recorded. However, to get to the page about when your daughter was born, you actually have to reject recording the night 1 phone call. On this new path, you instead need to call the voicemail service. But to do that, you need a code. This code is on the mobile phone's speed dial, but you would only know that if you had taken the previous prompt and used the bonus item to record the night 1 phone call, skipping this voicemail section entirely. Plus, it doesn't use the typical bonus item prompt. It just says if you have the 4-digit code. Without the bonus item, you never know what this code is. But if you have the bonus item, you'd have likely skipped this page and recorded the night 1 phone call. Yes, it is technically possible to do things
What
this
is
way.
going on?
It flies in the face of logic for the reader. Of course, you could just dismiss this as a small mistake. But then once you do get to the page about your daughter's age, we find another problem. It contains information that directly contradicts other information in the book. On this page, it tells you, you've never brought Capellia here, as in where you work, Freddy Fazbear's. Yet later on in the book, it says she's never gotten over the time you brought her to work to meet the animatronics when she was 7. Both of these things cannot be true. Either she's been to Freddy's or she hasn't. And so it makes it really difficult to lean on Capellia's age as a defining piece of evidence to settle this debate. Fortunately, there are a few other clues to help us out.
How? 1989.
Throughout the book, it becomes clear that Ralph has a bit of an affinity for modern pop culture, specifically movies and TV shows. On page 147, he references the Goonies. On page 194, he punches in the code 1234, and when it's wrong, says that would be a combination an idiot would have on their luggage. The same line from the movie Spaceballs. When fighting against the animatronics, Ralph's daughter yells, "Try holy water death breath," which comes from the movie The Lost Boys. This thing is full of references like this, and they're mostly from the 1980s. The Goonies was first released in 1985, Spaceballs was released in 1987, and The Lost Boys was also released in 1987. However, there is one year that comes up more commonly. On page 157, Ralph says how Bruce Willis makes crawling through vents look easy, referencing Die Hard from 1989. On page 176, he mentions watching Lethal Weapon movies, as in more than just the original, with the sequel coming out in 1989. He even references an episode of Star Trek on page 8, Who Watches the Watcher, an episode that was released in 1989. And finally, he mentions his daughter playing a Sega Genesis console, which was released in, you guessed it, 1989. With all of these references to the same date, it really feels like the emphasis is on this year, especially given that none of these references come from media that goes beyond November 1989, the month which we know FNAF 1 takes place thanks to the paycheck. And if you remove the broken page about recording the phone calls when Ralph's daughter was born, you no longer need to worry about Freddy's being around 11 years prior, which makes 1989 feel like a really solid candidate, at least at first. As I said, there are a bunch of references in this book, but there's only one that is mentioned twice. Time to make the donuts. This is the catchphrase of Fred the Baker, a character from a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts commercials introduced in 1981. That feels pretty in line with what we've already established. It's just another 80s reference. Except Fred the Baker and his catchphrase extended beyond the 1980s. The last commercial with Fred saying his iconic line was 1997.
Time to make the coffee, time to make the donuts.
So while yes, the catchphrase did exist in the 80s, this means we can't rule out.
I mean, it could also be very possible. It could be that maybe FNAF 1. I'm not sure if MatPat said it. I may have internal brain fog, but I think there was a possibility that FNAF 1 takes place in the early 2000s. Maybe like dead straight 2000 or 2001. Because, it's possible. It may be a possibility that in 2000, either the 2000s or 2001, that's where FNAF takes place. Because, it could be more, you can, watch the old stuff, and I'm pretty sure Ralph can see the old stuff if he's from the 2000s, because, we're getting, in the 2000s, that's where most of the technology has been bringing in, and all that. And I'm pretty sure he could be getting this from, maybe YouTube, or maybe... What was that old animation one? Newgrounds. Maybe? I don't know. I may be stupid on this one, but I just think it may be a possibility that FNAF 1 takes place in the 2000s.
The possibility that it takes place sometime in the 90s. And to top it off, there's one other reference that throws a spanner into the 1989 idea. Disney. No, I'm not kidding. Disney is canon in the FNAF universe.
Oh, no.
I thought we were crazy for comparing their mascot designs to FNAF in our Ultimate Timeline, but here we are. Quote, you smile, thinking back on better times. For a while, you'd have said that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was the happiest place on Earth, if you weren't worried about infringing on a trademark. The happiest place on Earth is, of course, the slogan for Disneyland, which opened in 1955. However, the key detail in that line isn't the slogan, but the kind of lawsuit Ralph is afraid of: trademark infringement. We spoke about trademarks in our recent Poppy Playtime episode, but the basic gist is that a person or business can trademark a phrase to stop others using it to sell their own products. In this case, it would be to stop other parks or franchises calling themselves the happiest place on Earth, as that could lead to visitors thinking they were visiting an official Disney attraction when actually they were going to a Murder Bear pizzeria. To get a trademark, you have to apply for it, making it an official legal thing that you own. And despite being around since 1955, Disney didn't actually register for that trademark until 1998. For Ralph to be afraid of trademark
close to
infringement,
2000s, right?
this book, and therefore FNAF 1, has to take place after the trademark was filed in... This isn't a totally
1998
for FNAF 1 either. I know Rye Toast has liked the idea of FNAF 1 being in 1998 for some time, mainly due to the date given to us on the FNAF paychecks. In FNAF 1, we're paid on November 12th, and in FNAF 2, we're also paid on November 12th. Only this time, we know the year, 1987. That isn't a Friday, as we initially discussed, but a Thursday, implying Fazbear typically breaks the mold and pays on Thursdays. And another year with November 12th on a Thursday is, as you might expect at this point, 1998. This date would also allow for Capellia's age to work if you wanted to include that detail, as 11 years prior is 1987, the same year as the grand reopening of Freddy's in FNAF 2. Finally, it also works with...
Listen, man, I don't like animatronics, alright? I don't like murderous animatronics, okay? However, getting a paycheck on every Thursdays? Oh, say less. I'll take the bait. Just give me the day shift. And remind me to stay away from the animatronics at all times. And we good.
A line that has bugged us theorists for years. During night one of FNAF 1, Ralph's phone call mentions that these characters were, quote, forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years. 20 years prior to 1998 would have been 1978. Since Help Wanted 2, we have been aware that the franchise has existed since the 1970s.
Yeah.
And in the Secret of the Mimic teaser, we saw the date 1979 pop up, very close to that 20 years prior. And just like it's possible he was rounding years for the phrase just been born, it's not too much of a stretch to believe he rounded up to 20 years when it was actually a year less, and it was 1979. So is that it? Is 1998 the year of FNAF 1? Honestly, I thought so for a pretty decent chunk of time, but as I was going back through all the evidence...
There's more?
The quote from Ralph about singing those songs for 20 years, it's not the full quote. We often spend a lot of time focusing on the 20 years part because that feels like a definitive amount that we can fit into whatever timeline we come up with. But the full line gives us an extra detail about exactly what he's referring to.
If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too.
Did you catch it? Ralph mentions them never being washed in those 20 years. You
Oh.
can't wash a character. It's just a fictional concept, which means this line has to be referring to the animatronics themselves. In the book, he also states that he was so happy that they restored Freddy and the gang to their vintage designs. These aren't new animatronics for this reopened location. These are old animatronics that have been restored. The same ones that have been around for 20 years. His joke about not getting a bath is just his explanation for why they smell, as during the canon run of the week before, he never discovers the truth about the kids' bodies being stuffed inside. Ralph's not talking about the characters of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. He's talking about the animatronics. And that changes everything. Because if these four animatronics have to have been around for 20 years, and that means there's only one date FNAF 1 can be.
2003.
We've seen that time and time again, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was officially established in 1983.
Okay, so I was kind of right about the 2000s, just off by 3 years. Or 2 years if you thought I was going to put 2001. But, hey man, it's great. I'll take... honestly, I can't really take the W on this one. But hey, at least it's something.
If the animatronics from FNAF 1 are supposed to be the same animatronics restored to their original vintage designs, then that would mean the earliest FNAF 1 could take place is 2003. But what about the Secret of the Mimic teaser? That showed the franchise was active in 1979. And that's true, but it's not taking into account the era of FNAF that game takes place in. In the books, the Mimic is invented as one of the earliest ever animatronics, designed to mimic the routines of others and wear whatever costumes it needs in order to become that character. This is the costume era of FNAF, not that of fully fledged animatronics.
Okay.
The creator of the Mimic in the books is working on animatronics of the main four, but they haven't debuted yet. We saw the same thing at Steel Wool's PAX West booth, where they showed a sneak peek of the game. On the walls was a poster saying Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, coming soon. The original animatronics have not yet taken center stage. They haven't started singing those silly songs yet, so the 20 years needs to start after they've debuted, once again pointing us to 1983 and therefore 2003. But what about the minimum wage or the paychecks or the references? It's true. Earning $120 for 5 nights of 6 hours work is $4 an hour, while minimum wage in 2003 is $5.15. But I also point out that after completing the 6th night, you only get an extra 50 cents in overtime pay, which regardless of whether it's 1989, 1993, or 2003 is still way too low. I'm just not convinced Scott thought through the amount all that much. As for the dates, the 12th of November 2003...
They really did not trust us thinking that we would survive all those nights. They gave us the most weakest paycheck ever. I'm sick. How you gonna make me go through that amount of pain and suffering and all I get is $150? No, $125.50 in my name. Really? This is not gonna pay no car or rent.
Is a Wednesday, and so it doesn't line up with FNAF 2's pay schedule. The only explanation I could offer is that in the movie, Mike learns about the job on April 6th, 2000, a Thursday, and the next day calls Afton and starts the job on Friday night, making his 5th night and the day he would typically be paid, Tuesday. So we can't necessarily guarantee Fazbear is paying on the same day of the week for all of those years. As for all of the references in the week before, well, just because references exist in the 1980s or the trademark was first established in 1998, it doesn't mean that's the only time those things can be mentioned. My dad only references Top Gun, which came out in 1986, despite the fact he goes to the cinema every other week. References like this can limit the earliest it can take place, but not necessarily how far into the future it goes.
Exactly, because, just look at now. We've been talking about you'll find at least someone in the internet, your favorite YouTuber, alright? You say... Alright. Say someone's doing a review about SpongeBob, right? But the earliest part of SpongeBob, like season 1. We know that season 1 takes place way in the past. Either from the 2000s or heck, even from the early 2000s to near the end of the 1990s, right? Right. But we can still make references of it. I mean, shoot, we make references of the past all the time. I mean, why do you think memes exist? We remix all the old media from the past and remix them into memes. So, at best, it's hey, Ralph is just a man of culture. And his knowledge of the culture just goes back way into the 1990s. I'm just saying.
Is 2003. This would mean that FNAF 1 takes place 16 years after the closure of 1987, which, if you're trying to revitalize a franchise, feels like an awfully long time to wait. Although, we all know the power of nostalgia with older audiences these days. As for the future parts of the franchise, this is where I'll admit things fall apart a little. FNAF 3 takes place 30 years after the closure of Freddy's, which would then become 2033. That isn't an issue by itself, but based on this poster and the calendar from security security breach? It's been theorized that security breach takes place in 2035. That means that FNAF 3, FNAF 6, Help Wanted, Special Delivery, and Security Breach all have to take place in 2 years.
Oh.
That's a speedrun worthy of a Tetrabit video. Again, that 2035 date has only been theorized about, so there is a chance that, like our initial FNAF 1 date, it's also not correct. Though I will admit, it is annoying if Henry's message in FNAF 6 that was labeled HRY223 has nothing to do with the year of the recording and is just an arbitrary number. So, what now? We've examined
do
the
it to us,
3
Henry.
options it feels like this book is trying to point us towards: 1989, 1998, or 2003. All of them have some pretty decent evidence supporting them, but they also have plenty of weaknesses. So, which one is the definitive true answer? This is where I'm sure many of you are waiting for me to pull out the trump card, the final piece of evidence that will settle this debate and give us an answer that no one was expecting. But the truth is, every time I tried to solve this paradox, there was always one piece of evidence that just...
Dang, so you're just gonna
If
leave
we
it to
agree
us?
it's
You
2003,
created
then
war.
the paycheck days don't work, and Henry's message number means nothing. If we agree it's 1998, then the animatronics can't have been around for 20 years. There's just no winning. This book was clearly supposed to give us answers, but a few mistakes or contradictions here and there have made it impossible to do so. And that is so frustrating as a fan of this franchise. We spent the last few years begging for answers to this franchise, and over the last year, it really felt like Scott was answering our prayers, clarifying older details in the franchise. The Bite of 87 being revealed to be Foxy in the week before. The Spring Bonnie aerial on the Midnight Motorist car in 5 Laps at Freddy's revealed that Cheeto Man from Midnight Motorist was Afton all along. Ditophobia revealed that the FNAF 4 nightmares were a result of hallucinogenic gas, not sound illusion discs. But when you actually...
Which I still... I know it's been so long since we've, dealt with that ditophobia, right? But it's just, it just doesn't feel right to me. Like, why? Why hallucination gas? William Afton trying to be Scarecrow so bad. I'm crying. Like, why? Come on, William Afton, really? Fear toxin? Gas? Really? Really? And it's no longer original now if you're just using gas, because Playtime Co. from across the street is also using it with the whole poppy gas. Like, come on, William. Stick with the thing illusion disc, man. That's something you can go for it. Dang.
Stop and look at those now solved mysteries. Outside of the immediate question, what did they actually solve? Cheeto Man is Afton, but we still don't know for sure who the kid that escapes is, who the person in the living room is, what the mound is. FNAF 4 is hallucinogenic gas. Okay, cool, but the game still plays out the same way. The Bite of 87 was Foxy, but nothing else has developed as a result, other than clearing the name of my beloved Mangle. Even today's mystery, the date of FNAF 1, what would knowing that year ultimately change about the story? Regardless of whether it's 1998 or 2003, FNAF 3 still happens next and it burns down. Then FNAF 6 happens and it also burns down. Then the Help Wanted VR game is made, and then the Pizzaplex gets built and is taken over by the Mimic. Sure, it is fun to be able to solve these small...
Shoot, Henry disappeared for so long. Maybe he was making countermeasures. Maybe he could just sell the whole Fazbear Fright stuff like it happened at the end of the game, and boom, someone else, maybe Mrs. Afton, or maybe someone else, maybe even his son, Sammy Emily, because I still firmly believe Sammy Emily needs to return. Come on, give us an evil Henry Jr. trying to oppose everything his father stands for. Come on, give Sammy some love. But it might be that, hey, just Michael did FNAF 1 in 2023. Then he immediately figures out that Fazbear Entertainment has made a horror attraction. He goes there, and he has to deal with his father, right? Boom. All right. FNAF 3 fire happens. All right. Boom. Apparently, there's another restaurant, but it wasn't made by Fazbear Entertainment. It's basically his dear old Uncle Henry is here to basically put everything, put everything to rest. William Afton turns out to be alive. He sees that. He's going there too. I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like some stuff can happen in about like a month. I mean, shoot, there's like 12 months, so I mean, like, there's 12 months in a year. I'm pretty sure things can happen it can happen excessively through months. I'm just saying.
Those threads and so to some degree, I'm thankful that Scott is giving them to us, but they're ultimately hollow gestures, as we're still unable to use those to figure out the bigger mysteries. What's the deal with Gregory? What happened to Cassie? Are the books canon? Instead, it kind of feels like we're being played with, given small answers to old questions that don't move the story forward. And even then, they're filled with so many contradictions that you still can't solve them all anyway. And that just sucks. It's one of the reasons why a large part of this fandom wants the books to be canon. It may not solve everything, but it gives us much more straightforward stories and explanations, something tangible that we can hold on to. And that feels a lot better than the alternative of being left scrambling for details that conflict with each other. We've been left in the dark for so long about so many things, and in a time of so much uncertainty, we want to be able to go to our favorite franchises and feel secure. But instead, it feels as though we're being messed around more and more. As we get close to the end of 2024, and we've got a new year of FNAF upon us,
yes, we do.
Give each other some slack. Whether you believe it's 1989, 1998, 2003, or you want to stick with the original 1993, at the end of the day, we are all working with a broken system, just trying our best to make sense of it. And
yeah.
Scott, if you happen to be watching this, you've got Secret of the Mimic, an interactive novel about Cassie in the Pizzaplex, and another Into the Pit adaptation coming. Let there be some actual answers that help us understand more than just the small details. And please make sure there aren't too many contradictions this time. And if you need volunteers to help double check your lore, I might know a good group of people that would be willing to help out.
Hey!
And if you need volunteers to help double check your lore, I might know a good group of people that would be willing to help.
Dang, you announced the squad. You've announced the squad. Underscore, you got Daco, ID Fantasy, Right Toes, FNAF. And these are so many people over here. And Hyperdroid too. And you just showing out for the book. You just showing out for this game. I want a FNAF crew. I want a FNAF Theory crew like that. Is there an application? I'm willing to go in. But anyways. Well, guys, that's going to be the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like the video so I know you guys enjoy. Comment down below what do you guys think. As the old saying goes, so close, but yet so far. Honestly, we may never find out. We may never figure out FNAF, to be honest. Like, it's now becoming so much so that we need to do this. And I feel like that's Scott Cawthon's attention. He's trying to make it seem so impossibly hard to solve FNAF that it keeps making us come back for more. Because really think about it. If we solve FNAF, right? Would anyone care about the next game? I mean, don't get me wrong. I know some people will say, yes, we will still care, even if we solve the FNAF lore. But really think about it. Say if we solve FNAF, right? We solve it. No. Let's go even further. Say if the ultimate timeline that MatPat made, or heck, even the one before like Help Wanted release, would we still buy Help Wanted? I mean, at one hand you could say, yeah, we would buy it. We would still buy Help Wanted because hey, it's a VR experience. Who wouldn't want to experience FNAF in VR? But on the second half, you'll be like, I don't know, man. Like, we basically saw FNAF, so I mean, like, what more do we need to do? I am guaranteeing it, alright? I don't know if that's going to bite me in the butt, but I guarantee it that Scott Cawthon is secretly, and I do mean secretly, making it so difficult for us to solve FNAF that it's making us want to come back for more. And it's it's a never-ending cycle, because you would think that we saw FNAF, but then there's something new that's gonna make us come back and re-guess ourselves. I'm calling it, okay? He's purposely doing it. But me going crazy aside. But yeah, that's gonna be the video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell, so that way you never miss out on another video. There's 2 links actually in the description box where you can react to the other videos, and one of the links will lead you to, which no doubt, my longest video ever, and that's me reacting to the Alex Bale Neptune theory as well as the Grandpad theory. And the next, and the other link will lead you to the last video that I reacted to Game Theory, in which it's Dress to Impress Part 2. And I gotta say, Dress to Impress number 2, whew, the story got more deeper. But anyways, guys, this is Juan Gamer 54 signing off.